particular session. It's going to be very interesting because we are going to talk about entrepreneurship. So on behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Center of Parul University, this is a panel discussion mainly on entrepreneurship skills, attitude and behavior department under the mentor-mentee program of IIC 4.0. I'm very delighted to have three, very successful entrepreneurs today with us who will be talking about, different aspects of entrepreneurship, including, sharing their experience as entrepreneurs and many things, ups and downs and everything that happens as part of their journey. I'm very pleased to introduce them to you. Anand Parikh, he is founder of Shira MedTech, alumnus of IIT Madras and Stanford India Biodesign. Shira MedTech is national award-winning medical device innovation startup, which drive innovation that improve affordability and commercialization of robust medical devices that are applicable in resources, constrained settings, and relevant worldwide. Welcome, Anand.
Thank you, Billy.
Our next panelist is Chirag Thakkar. Chirag is founder and director at Opulence, which is Gujarat's biggest co-working space, and he is also the founder of Learning Trees Global School. As an angel investor and part of Startup Scheme of Gujarat, as a consultant, and many times he has been jury around different events. He is always looking for a very noble idea and any new age business that can really excite him. Welcome, Chirag. Can I request the organizers from the Parul University to please put everyone else's status on mute, please? Thank you. I think we can, what we will do is once the part of the conversation is over, then we can always have an open house and, you could ask your questions yourself. But till then, I'll request whoever is not speaking, let the status be on mute. Thank you. Our next panelist.
हाँ इसी पे करना पड़ेगा म्यूट करना
You can mute everyone together also. Thank you. Our next panelist is Akshay Sethia, CEO of Design Brains. He has over 14 years of experience in technology, and his firm provides conceptual, functional, and presentational development for the global business community through out-of-the-box thinking and web strategies, design, and technology solutions. Welcome, Akshay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, why are we talking today, about this entire session, next 55 minutes on entrepreneurship? So India, as you know, has become the third largest startup ecosystem now, in terms of the startups. The government recognizes more than 14,000 new startups just in the last 12 months, compared to something like 700 plus, in 2016-17. India startups have raised more than $40 billion in funding last year. Can I request someone from the organizers, please, to mute the status for all the participants, please? To help everyone to listen to the session properly.
Students, kindly just mute your mic if speaker are not able to speak properly. If your mic is unmute, kindly mute your mic. Sorry, Piyadi ma'am, for such a disturbance right now.
Let's Right. Thank you very much, organizers. Well, so what we are going to do today is we are going to spend the first, like sort of 45 minutes in talking to our panelists today and hear from them. And then, we can have an open house and we can ask any of the questions you have. In the meantime, if there are any questions, I'll request you to please put it on the chat box and, we can take it up once we are done with our conversation with the panelists. Thank you. So the entire startup ecosystem in India looks very vibrant, with more than some 1,500 fundraise deals in 2021. 2,500 unique investors had participated in different fundraising events. And of course, it's raining unicorns in India. We saw a record 44 of them in the last year. And then there are startups and unicorns, especially the new age technology ones, which even got listed in the stock exchange. So from that perspective, I think we are in a great place to be in. And I'm happy that so many of you have interest in, becoming entrepreneurs. So my first question to all the three panelists, I'll request you to very, very briefly talk about your work. And then my question to all three of you is, why entrepreneurship? Why didn't you think of doing anything else but become an entrepreneur? Let's start with Akshay, you.
Thank you, Piali. Good morning, everybody. I am into tech space. We started with a small web and all, but now we invest in a lot of emerging technology spaces. We've been investing in fintech space also, where we keep on seeing where the world is headed. So very importantly, why entrepreneurship, Piali, very important was that there was nothing else to do. I think the fish would always have to be in water. And entrepreneurship was something that we realized is the only way to really grow and make other people's grow. So when you want to contribute to society or for your own self and to make see your ideas getting implemented, the kind of things that it gives you. I think the entrepreneurship was the call, was always there. And as an inherent risk taker, I think so that was there in terms of doing that. And technology space in India has been changing amazingly globally also. But yeah, so I think so for me, that was the main pointers of being an entrepreneur because I've seen that impact it brings on the overall society.
Lovely. Thank you. Chirag, over to you.
Thank you, Piali. Hello, everyone. I'm Chirag Thakkar. I'm the director and founder of Opulence Spaces, which is India's most premium co-working space. In March 2020, we have started with only 10,000 square feet and 160 seats, and now we have reached to around 2 lakh square feet and more than 3,000 seats as of now. And we are planning to, reach to 500,000 by end of 2022. So I would like to say, Piali, why not entrepreneurship, right? Basically, entrepreneurs are the pioneer of bringing new technologies and systems that ultimately bring changes to the society. These changes are directly associated with the improved lifestyle, generous thinking, better moral, and highly economic choice. And in this way, social changes gradually impact national and global changes. And that is the reason I would say you should become an entrepreneur.
And you become your own boss.
Yes.
Right? And then you are creating job also and a lot of other opportunities for others to join.
True. And see, when you work for yourself, you're always happier and motivated, and you won't have to be afraid of getting fired anymore. And we can see the recent example of our shark as well. If you're not funded and you build your startup very well, then, you will be your own boss. So this inspired me a lot to, start my journey and as an entrepreneur.
Anand, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Piali. So my journey started majorly from curiosity. So like many of the students over here, I started as an undergraduate student with a project. And mostly engineering projects end up in a nice looking presentation, some grades, and maybe a prototype that eventually goes into the trash. But I wanted to see what it really takes to convert such concepts into an actual product. So as a biomedical engineer, I worked on developing a product with a surgeon, and my first dream was to see it live on a patient and actually making impact, as what Chirag said, bringing change to the society. So that is how my journey into entrepreneurship started, and now it is changing its meaning, but there is always something to look forward to, which is what I really like about it.
Right. And we do see many engineers now, whether from IIT or any other regional engineering colleges, who are not sort of opting to really go and work with some other engineering firm, but they want to start something of their own, something new, something different, right?
Yes, definitely. Engineers do have the advantage of possessing the skills to put their ideas or product ideas into tangible products, which is where there is scope for um, a lot of people to get interested, and that is where the journey of entrepreneurship starts.
Lovely. So thank you so much, all the three of you. Very glad to know that, all three of you are entrepreneurs by choice. So let me talk a little bit more around that. So Akshay, my next sort of a question is to you. How did you become sure that, you have to become an entrepreneur? Like, when you finished your college and you thought that you wanted to start a venture of your own, you
Actually started doing a job, because I wanted to be into a tech side. So I went to Hyderabad. I started doing a job over there. The goal of the job was not to really earn money. And the goal of the job was to take as much responsibility as possible and learn about the entire ecosystem of how this business was functioning. And very importantly, what I learned was what not to do in business, rather than what to do in business during those 2-3 years of job. But that was job was to very clearly get into an entrepreneurship mindset. After 3 years over there, moved back to Ahmedabad because that's where the base is, and then started the first part of it. But yeah, I think so. Seeing problems and seeing solutions to the problems, having courage, to fail, because a lot of time people don't do entrepreneurship because they have a fear of failure, uh, and a lot of let's say families today don't support. If they are not from business background, they have this fear: what would happen if you fail? I think so. That fear is what really stops most of the people from becoming an entrepreneur. Because from the core, people want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be opulent. But that is something that I would tell to everybody is that just go out in the market, because the only way you would know whether you will be a success or a failure is to actually go out and try. And today, if there has never been a better time to be an entrepreneur than it is today, with this entire ecosystem coming up, mentoring coming up, funding coming up, sort of let's say opportunities which are there in terms of available, you should think of being an entrepreneur, and nothing else is what I tell everybody these days. Thank you, Priyali.
Great. So no, I think very well said. Courage is probably most important. And then, you are okay to fail and start again, maybe fail, get up and start again. I think that's extremely important. And like you said, because you worked for a couple of years, that experience also comes in very handy in terms of probably what not to do, when you start something of your own.
Definitely.
Right. Great. So, Chirag, my next question is to you. When like when we were all in college, like Akshay also mentioned, and even Anand mentioned, we do a lot of projects, right? We get a lot of good projects, good topics, and obviously, project means there is always a start date, there is an end date, and we are fine if we have got some good marks and we are done with it. Business, on the other hand, is on a completely different principle, right? We look at it as something on the ongoing basis.
Yes.
So from this contrast, what skills do you think an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur should have in very, very practical terms that would help him or her?
Okay. So as you mentioned, okay, when we were in college, we used to do a small project, but that is something which is really important, building your own business. See, when you are doing any project, it's a small target. It has a start date and end date. So you don't need to, push very hard to make vision out of it. But when you do a project in timeline, you will get that confidence to build your own business, right? So this will help you to build your business in future as well. So being an entrepreneur, the most important skills which you should have, this is what I think is the communication and the negotiation skills is. See, when it comes to a negotiation skills, it doesn't mean the bargaining skill I am talking about. The negotiation skills is consist of 4 different things. One is, first of all, when you are building any business or any product, you must know about your target audience, or we can say prospect or a market, right? So the first thing in the negotiation skills is the market you should aware about. See, when I was building this startup, see, before this, I had a very successful startup of EdTech. I had a 55 franchisee across India and Middle East, and I sold it to Dubai-based company. This is my another venture, right? So when I started Opulence, the first thing what I have, research about, that is a market. Who will be our target audience, right? See, from very first day, I am sure I'm not going to entertain retail or a medical customer. For me, the IT and back office work guy are my market. See, first making my prospect list, I know how to reach to them. The second thing is to connect with them. So after making the list of my prospect, I should find out the ways to reach out to them. And this will work in any industry, right? It's not about only real estate industry. You're in any industry, even if you're, wondering for a funding. So you should know who is your target audience, whom do you connect, angel investor or family or a VCs, right? Then after finding proper channel to connect with them, you should be very clear about your idea and your vision. So you should always have a proper presentation of your product or your business. So the third thing what you need to take care is how to pitch and how to present your idea and your business. So when I connected with most of the IT companies, I thought, okay, let me make a good presentation, and I just wanted to show them why they need to shift to a co-working space and not into the traditional space. So always you should know about the USP of your product, right? And after presentation, the main task is the feedback, or we can say the follow-up, right? If you are not strong enough to take a proper feedback or follow-up, you will not get the things done. So this is what I believe the main, the main skill which you require, that is the negotiation skills, and you can say sales skills. And this is how I built my first startup when I'm building another startup. So, and I read somewhere, every salesperson, every CEO was once a salesperson. You have to become a very good at selling your product. So this is what you need to build for your startup or for your business. This is what I wanted to say.
Lovely, thank you, Chirag. So what you are saying that, even when you are doing some projects in your college, they are equally important, because obviously in projects also, probably you are trying to either, let's say, sell or convince someone about the idea of your project, why it is good, why you are doing it, and whatever. You may not be looking at revenues and all that, but everything else that you have done in that overall project planning is very, very similar to when you start with an idea and you want to sort of convert it into a venture and take it forward.
Right.
Lovely. So target our audience, identifying that, connecting well with it, knowing your product well or the idea well, so that you can present it well, which means again the communication part also comes in it. And you should be very, very open to be able to take feedback, positive, negative, but whatever feedback comes in, probably, take the constructive part on it and improvise on it. That's very, very important, right? Thank you. My next question is to Anand. So, Anand, many of us who have probably seen your website, we know that you have got a fantastic product, and you also mentioned that, your product has some of the features and benefits which probably, I think none of your competitors have. So according to you, how important is innovation these days? Whether it's an innovation in the process or innovation in the product, what's your take on this? Because I think it's an extremely important aspect of any venture or any startup these days. Over to you, Anand.
Yes, thank you for unmuting my mic. Really, so that's a very important question. That innovation, as Chirag mentioned, selling is something that we learn in the college. For example, in college projects, instead of money, we are looking for grades. Instead of investors, we probably have some grant agencies or parents or whoever is going to take us to the next level of the business. Maybe in the next year of college or whatever, they'll pay the fees again. We sell again, we get good grades, and then the cycle continues. So that can be an analogy with it. So as it is with good grades, if you have something really unique that interests your customer or say your faculty who is giving you the grades, they are more likely to be convinced by your effort. Similarly, in startups, product innovation is that uniqueness that is aligned with the objectives of our customers. And in the competition of so many companies and products and everybody around, it is the innovation that is going to attract the attention of our customer, and they are likely to choose us over others. So in the selling part, innovation is the key.
Correct. And how did, so Anand, just a little follow-up on that. In your case with your product, maybe briefly, if you could mention, how could you sort of bring in that innovation in your product? At what stage and how did you move with it? Can the host unmute Anand, please?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so I worked with a plastic surgeon during my project. And the likes of this plastic surgeon were going to be my future customers. So essentially, the way I worked is that I spoke to my potential customer, found out what is it that they really need, or what would I do as an innovative project that would interest such customers and more customers like theirs, and then came up with a product idea. So as Chirag mentioned, talking to the customer, getting feedback, understanding their life is very important.
Correct. Thank you, Anand. So, you know, I'm going to sort of connect with these things that you mentioned, now, and probably take it a little forward in the journey of an entrepreneur. So, Akshay, let us say this is a question for you, since you have been in the business for more than a decade now. Let's say that you have generated an idea. How will you become confident that your idea or the product that you are thinking is good for the market and it can succeed? Is there a process that one can follow, to ensure that they are coming up with an idea and a product which of course has the market or probably the acceptability or its utility to the minimum for the society? Akshay, you need to unmute.
Yeah, now I'm able to do that because host had disabled unmuting. Okay, so I think first of all, when any idea strikes today, Piali, I would really go and check on Google whether this idea already exists. Lot of time we come up with ideas and find somebody already has worked on those ideas earlier, or you find an app which is very similar to that, or a product which is very, very similar to that. So very, very important today is that if we get an idea, we first vet it, whether there are similar ideas or similar things available in the market or not, because that becomes a very, very important starting point. Otherwise, you just keep on reinventing the wheel, which is of no good use. Second is, yes, if you have an idea and you find other ideas which are also very, very similar, I would actually do much more research on that, whether they are successful or whether they failed. And if they're successful, what is the kind of market they're successful in? And if they failed, what was the reason of their being failure? If it's an existing idea, because you can always build on those things to create an entire new idea set. Every product has a potential to generate new products and new innovations out of that. So that's the first thing that I would really do. Second is I would, once I have this idea, I've done my research, I would actually float it around to the known people, who are into business or similar technology, to really understand whether this need is there. As Chirag mentioned, it's very, very important to understand who would be my target audience for that. So let's say if my target audience is, for example, real estate people, I would actually go and sit with a few of them, or maybe real estate brokers, real estate developers, and try to understand what if this sort of products really come to the market. Will they be really accepting this product, or what are the other challenges that could be add on to it? In my earlier businesses also, I think so this has been the most helpful part of it, because when you sit with the people who would be your potential consumers, they give you much better idea, and you don't need to make huge changes later on. So that becomes very, very important, and that is how the best way to start is, research, uh, get to know your mentor circle. I'd like to say with your friends or the mentor you have, sit with the actual potential customers, because one of the most important thing is I would first make the target audiences. Who would be the right target audience to pitch my idea? I will go and meet them, and then I would create my GMT, which is the go-to-market strategy. Is what I'll create. For that, we create basically a smart plans, which are very specific, which are measurable, which are relevant, attainable, and very, very important, time bound. Where we would be getting this product from, and when we'll be going with the minimum viable product, because you cannot have the end product going first. You need to start with an MVP. That is how I would really start my journey for any idea today. It would not be from an idea, first jump and then see what happens. But no, idea, go to the entire research process, get as much feedback as possible, as much failure chances or questions people have, and then go with the goals, the goal for MVP, and then start the MVP part of it. And then once the minimum viable product is ready, go to the same customers again with whom I had discussed this and show it to them. That would really build up the next level, how we go on the market. So that would be my planning from an idea to a go-to-market strategy.
So just 1 second. Yeah. So thank you, Akshay. Yeah, I think that was very helpful. And yes, I of course remember sort of always reading this many times that, if you have an idea, it's best to first do a bit of a market research around that. And I think, like you mentioned, Google, there can't be easier way than actually first go to Google and see how many competitors you have. And I also remember reading somewhere that, if you have competitors, it is always good, because then that your product is required by people. That's the reason why these competitors exist, and it's always healthy for that reason. So right. So market research, see who are your competitors, probably also try and see who failed and who have succeeded. That can kind of give you an idea as to if someone failed, what had happened, and probably you are in a better position to learn just by understanding their analysis rather than बोलते ना हिंदी में वो ठोकर खा के बार-बार क्यों सीखना है अगर already
exactly.
cases
Sometimes what happens is you try to bring in the US idea into Indian market. That sometimes does not work, because the entire market dynamics are different. So cloning sometimes is not the right way of doing it, even if you have a very good idea to that. So understanding if your market is local or whatever market is, doing that first bit of, let's say, real talk with customers about the need is very, very important, because if the need is not there, if only you think there is a need, it will just not work.
Correct. So you have to literally start with a problem statement that you think you are solving in this society or community or for people, and is it a real problem? If it's a real problem, I think कोई भी solution उसका अगर बनता है, so there will always be a scope for you to take it forward. But that's probably the most important, and probably one must spend enough time to ensure that your idea is good. And like you said, maybe go to some potential customers with whom you can discuss in confidence that, this is an idea, whether it works or not, and get a little bit more expert advice, right? Super. Well, if I was to go to the next step, like you said, Akshay, and then if you're happy with that idea, looks like it has a lot of rationale and it can be taken forward for a product. So, Anand, now my question is to you, because you have in the very, very recent years built a product. How do you validate once your product, or let's say for someone else, a service is made, which means that, once your minimum viable product is ready and then you take it beyond? And my second question to you is that after this entire process of validation is over, am I okay to improvise and continue to improve on my original idea and not necessarily have the same idea actually even after 1 year? Over to you, Anand.
Okay, that's an interesting question. So I think for answering how to validate the idea, it is important to know why we want to validate the idea. So in the field of medical devices, validation could be from the customers directly, as in we want to validate the product because it creates credibility of the product, which helps us in selling the product to the customer in a better way. That is one way of looking at it. And another type of validation is for regulatory purposes. In order for the business to function, there need to be certain authorities which have to give us the license or the certification which is required to sell the product. So in order to, we have to understand what is our need for validation, and then speak to whoever is the stakeholder for which we are validating the product. For example, if the customers feel that having a human trial of a medical device in a reputed place is something that they can trust, because innovation is, of course, it is something new. Customers are also trying to minimize their risk. So if it is sufficient for them, then the entrepreneur has to figure out how to get that validation done, what is going to be the cost, and what is the best way in which it can be done. And for the regulatory authorities, sometimes we have to ask and find out what is there in the law, and what are the other requirements for a company to function. And then whatever is the requirement, we need to understand what it is going to take in terms of resources and efforts to, and even team members to accomplish that. Does that answer your first question?
Yeah, sure. Yes. So to an extent, it will also depend from sector to sector and a product to product.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So having a why is important in order to arrive at the how of the validation. And I'm sorry, I forgot the second question.
Yeah, the second question, I was saying that, many times when you have a startup, your original idea is something. By the time you have reached to a final product, which goes to the market, there might be quite a big change because you have improvised throughout it. Is that okay? Does it happen enough?
Yes, I think it happens on a daily basis. So we keep receiving feedback. We keep thinking about how to make the product better, not just to serve the customer in a better way, but also to make sure that nobody else out innovates us. The way we are trying to out innovate the who have a watch, who are keeping a watch on us, and they would try to do something better than what we do. So it's better to run first in that race.
Right. So it's okay. So, many times I do hear that, people are very sort of emotional and attached to their original idea, but the original idea can change, and it is quite okay to continue to evolve and improve as you move forward.
Yes. I mean, Apple keeps launching new iPhones every year.
Correct. Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Anand, for that. Right. So, Chirag, I'm coming to this last sort of 1-2 years of our crisis. Your business and your product that you have has, of course, got impacted like many other sectors. And reason I'm touching upon on this crisis because crisis can happen in different ways and forms. So, my question to you as an entrepreneur, how did you keep the confidence while you could see that businesses are going down, and then how did you sort of think about reviving it back? I mean, and you are quite a seasoned entrepreneur, so when we are talking about startups who just have had their journeys for say just about 2-3 years, it might be even more difficult for them. But now that we have a crisis like this in front of us, let's kind of learn what would we do if it happens, anything like that happens again. I mean.
Right. So don't remind me about my March 2020 days. Because as I mentioned, I have started this opulence at March 2020 only. So 10th of the March we have inaugurated, and you all are knowing that after 10 or 15 days this lockdown happened. So when you are building something, so I was after this from last 6 months. So from September 29, I was building this because I wanted to make a very premium co-working space of Ahmedabad. So after putting 6 months of hard work, when you are launching your startup and after 10 or 15 days, you got to know, okay, there is a lockdown, right? And your product is most affected amongst all, and that will become a very nightmare for you. So what I have done is from in that 45 days to 50 days, I was, keep thinking about making some solutions, because I was completely aware about that. After 50 days, people are not going to, resume to offices, because everyone was in a, big shock. They were unsure about when these things will be, settled. So what I have done is, see, when I have started this co-working space, I have a vision of making a proper startup ecosystem for Gujarat region, and that is the reason I have made this. But then when I got a first client, that is a Wipro, they were asking about 80 to 90 seats. So what I have done is I have closed my anchor client, and then my focus shift to MNC companies. But this pandemic happened, I again come back to a normal thing, and I was looking after a startup or a freelancer or those who are not comfortable working at home. So this is the learning I have get from this. Whenever you find any problem, you ask for a solution or you search for a solution, and you just need to concentrate on your target audience. I'm coming back to that topic. Okay, once you know in any problem, okay, what will be your target audience or whom do you reach out, so you can solve that easily. See, the after lockdown, the May, June, and July was very terrible for us. But I was knowing that now the things is becoming very good, and the most of the company who have a work from home, they will start resuming offices. And on background, I have started building a bigger office space for them, because now again my target audience has been changed from startup to big companies who have terminated their contract to their older landlord, and now when they will start again working from office, they require a bigger space. And this is how I scaled up my business 10,000 square feet to a 2 lakh square feet. That is a 20x after this pandemic. See, that time I had a two choices. So I should terminate the contract with the landlord and run away with my idea. And the second, I should search for another opportunity or another target audience who can help me to survive in my bad days. So whenever you find any issue or any situation like this, you should take it very calmly and ask or search for the solution. And this is how you will grow. See, if I have terminated this contract and then I'm not in that position, I right now I have more than 2,500 seats actively, and by this end of year I will target and will have a 6,000, and will be the largest co-working space of Gujarat. And we are planning in a 2 or 3 years will be the largest player in tier 2 cities. So when you when you are stick to your idea or vision and ask for the solution or search, beat you. This is what my learning, and this is what I want to say to young entrepreneurs.
So, no, I think, Chirag, very well said, and extremely important point that if there are situations like this, one, you have to look within first to see, how could you probably have your target audience still work for your product and solution, and probably do at least minimum which can help you survive through this. And then maybe plan that once you have gone through this, how can you then again probably go back or revive back to your original ideas maybe. But it's absolutely okay for one to think of different ways of utilizing your infrastructure or your product or to a new market, different market, new use, different use of your product, all of these combinations to survive, right? And probably start off thinking about all of these things from the beginning itself and not leave it probably at a time when a crisis happens. Right. But maybe you should always have this kind of a backup thoughts or a plan as part of your journey, right? Yeah. Great. Akshay, just very, very quickly, I thought I'll check with you. Did you also face any kind of a very difficult situation, or because you were in digital technology, you were on the other side and everybody was coming to you?
Let's say on the tech side, it was really very, very good. On the digital side, it was very, very good. But I had a couple of more ventures where I invested. There was this music academy, there was this restaurant which had to, face the burn of the entire thing. Yeah, so as Chirag said, when you're doing entrepreneurship, there are certain inherent risks available. You have to either face it sometimes and still go along with it, or sometimes you need to take those decisions to, terminate and then restart again in that period of time. So yeah, I saw both of the sides, the good side on the tech side and the worst side on the other side, where I had to actually shut down a couple of those ventures.
So yeah, so I mean, shutting down also had to be done, right? And these are all part and parcel of an entrepreneurship journey, and it's okay to be like happening. Correct. No, I completely understand that part. My next question is to Anand. And again, I'm going back to technology part of it. And of course, Anand has also been, I think, a guest faculty at IIT Chennai for quite some time. So Anand, we see that these days, technology, either as a core business or enabler, is very, very key to any startup. And obviously, like we talked just now, after pandemic, it has become even more important. And I think many students who have joined us today here are also engineers. So I want to understand from you, how and what is the advantage they can have when they plan to start something of their own? If technology has been, or a digital technology has been the background of your study.
Sorry, really, could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear properly.
Right, sure. So, Anand, my question was, since we have a lot of engineers also, who would have joined us today, what is the advantage they can have when they come out of the college after completing their engineering, and they want to start a venture of their own? How much, because technology is extremely important, right? Either it's core of your business or it is an enabler in some way or the other. So how do you see that technology background can really be an advantage for many, many students now who want to become an entrepreneur?
Having a good technology background gives the entrepreneur an understanding of their product, of their competitors' products, and also some knowledge of how to make it better than others. For example, or for how to make an improvement to the product is something that they can understand. Moreover, engineering colleges also come with a great network. We get to interact with people having a very, very diverse set of skills. Somebody is good at software, somebody is good at hardware, and people have different other talents. So using that network and the understanding of the product goes a long way when the entrepreneur starts selling their product or building a product.
So this domain knowledge, as you mentioned, sort of comes in very handy.
Yes, network and domain knowledge.
Technology background. And obviously, we have a lot of opportunities these days
Yes.
to even do a lot of courses we can online and otherwise probably keep ourselves upgraded with it.
Yes.
Chirag, a quick question to you, just about probably the top 3 things an angel investor would look at, when a startup founder is pitching to them for funds.
Okay. Now I think everyone knows better than me because everyone watched Sark India, right? So the 3 most important thing what I can say is the first is the idea, right? The idea or product or the innovation which you have in your startup. That is the most important thing. Is the second the people don't mention, but I would strongly say is the background of the founders. That is the most important role, and while we are investing any startup. And the third one is the trend or market, or we can say the how potential it will have in future of this startup or a business. So these are the 3 things which I say, okay, the most important thing while you are pitching to an investor.
So for an early startup, the idea and the product, and therefore the USP, the team behind,
Yes.
yes, and the addressable market. How big is that market so that the scalability is understood by an investor?
Yes.
Right, lovely. I think these are very 3 important points to note. Akshay, in this financially or the 2022-23, in next 12 to 15 months, which sectors do you see are evolving the most or emerging the most, where people can have opportunities more to work in?
So let's say if you talk about globally, then there are a lot of things, but if you talk about real good trends in the next coming 1 year, I think the IoT would be very, very much on the top because a lot of things are getting connected globally. In fact, even locally, like, there needs to be a connectivity at all places. So IoT is an amazing space to be in. If you're engineers, if you're software programmers, this is the place to be in. Lot of robotics is getting adopted into SMEs. Robotics was only related to very large industries, but a lot of good space in robotics is there in the SME segment these days. So that is something that is really coming up very, very nicely. If you are into AI and ML, because the data is coming huge from all these IoT devices, that area is going to stay for a very, very long time. Blockchain is an amazing term. A lot of investors love the term blockchain these days. But purely from a technology point of view, it has got a lot of scope coming up purely from the data document management systems, where there's entire traceability part of it. So that is very, very interesting. On the software side, API-driven productivity tools, because today everything is connected through APIs. So if you could actually build on the entire API ecosystem, that is really going to work, because today nobody develops. Everybody just gets the data from everywhere else and create a product. It's not about doing everything or creating everything yourself. There's such amazing tools available. So that is a huge market which is really coming up. Yeah, AR, VR, especially on the product side. On the manufacturing product side, the AR thing is really catching up very, very nicely for product innovations also, as well as product marketing also. The pictures, everything is getting shifted to more on the AR side. So these are, I would say, for the next 1 year, these are very, very good, technology spaces to be in. Also, not just 1 year, Piali. If somebody starts this startup this year within all these technology spaces, they'll have at least next 4, 5, 6, 7 very, very good years to really keep on working on these startups, and the growth is really very nice in these fields.
Lovely. So yeah, absolutely. I think some of these domains are to be looked for and watched. And I think from an industry point of view, also around all of these artificial intelligence, BI and analytics, I think cloud technologies and tools will continue to remain. And the last 2 years of pharma and healthcare will obviously start maturing more and more in these coming years. And I think entertainment, gaming, streaming services, do they also see enough place now?
Yes, it pretty much is, because content is been consumed in a huge way. So anywhere the content is been created and streamed is still a very good opportunity these days.
Lovely. So I think quite a lot of areas where, even the youngsters who are probably becoming a first-time entrepreneur also has a lot of choice to innovate or do something very differently, which we have not seen, or that's not our way of working till now.
Yes, a lot of opportunities. As I said, there's never been a better time to become an entrepreneur. This is one of the best times to become an entrepreneur, especially for people who are just coming out of colleges or young people over there. One of very interesting is the platforms. You could actually create more as a SaaS platforms,
Mm.
which could be very industry specific platforms. The idea is go beyond B2C, focus on B2B. There's a huge potential in B2B SaaS based platforms. Because everybody's trying to be, let's say, Zomato, Swiggy, and others which are more B2C. But I see a huge thing coming on the B2B, especially in the fintech side.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. So sort of my last question to three of you, and maybe I can start with Chirag. What would be your advice to all the budding entrepreneurs and founders of new startups? But I want your advice not more than in 5 words.
Okay. Then I would say keep trying and never give up.
Keep trying and never give up. Akshay?
Opportunity does not knock, build a door.
You have to build the door, okay. Anand?
I would say do things one step at a time.
Do things one at a time, one step at a time.
One step at a time, yes.
One step at a time.
Analyze where you are and do the very next step that you can take. Don't worry about the future.
Lovely. Thank you. That's wonderful. And Jay, what would be your advice? I also have a question for you, but I want to know your advice.
My advice personally to all the students would be that, keep open your mind for the problems and turn them into opportunities, because many times they fell into the complaining mode being student, that they should have this thing, that thing. So rather than going for complaint, whenever you see a problem, you need to understand opportunity, innovation, how can I do that? Simple. So that's it from that would be my suggestion to all the students. Yeah, you have
Right. So Jay, maybe one question to you, which we haven't talked about, you would be in a better position to tell. So fundraising, obviously every startup finds it to be probably the most important thing, which is, what are the different options, probably the top 3 or 4, you would like to tell all the participants, those who are probably going to be within the first 2-3 years of their journey?
Yeah, so first, if I would like to say that being in state of Gujarat, I think we are very much fortunate to have several policies from government, which supports, at an initial early stage innovation. So at an idea level, there are policies like SSIP, which is really good. I mean, they directly support 2.5 lakh rupees at an idea level. And this is a time where it is very much riskier, to put in money into. So normally student does not get any private money into it as an idea level. So SSIP supports you that. Then if innovation is further, if it turns into prototype and if there is a, it is validated, then if they want further money to get the final product ongoing, in that case now IIF has also provision to give seed money of 10 lakh rupees. IIF Gujarat. So I think that is another option they could go ahead with the government grants. And once with this initial 10-15 lakh rupees, if they are into a domain and if the product and if I develop such that it is really innovative and provides value to a and even before angels, now we also have policy from IC office. And there are sector specific policy of IT, ITES and biotech policy wherein startup is of that domain. Directly they can get funding from those kind of policies. So I think in Gujarat, there are fairly good amount of policies prevailing to provide grants. And if the ticket size is above 50 lakh, I think GVFL also comes into picture, wherein it is equity-based funding. So one thing I would like to say from my side that funding today is not a problem in the growth of startup. The problem is value addition. It should not be a conventional kind of thing. The scalability should be there. It should be now. Yesterday only we met Nagarajan sir. In fact, he gave a good definition of impact unicorn. He said that normally we talk about unicorns where we say that when the valuation goes above $1 billion in terms of financial aspects. But he said that I would be more interested in a startup which has impact unicorn, wherein the startup has impacted the life of 1 billion people. So he said that, I really appreciated his vision of our startups, when he was interacting with all the startups from across Gujarat, where DPIIT also came yesterday at IIC campus, KCG campus. So it's good to see that leaders from government, also from top-notch officers, are into this domain and are interacting with startups. So I think Gujarat has great potential in this domain, and all the students attending this session. I think the opportunity for all of you is there. SSIP 2.0 has already launched, and PLA madam was herself present in the IIT's launch and biotech policy launch. So there are fair chances. I think good luck to all the students, and just keep focusing on the problems as an opportunity for innovation. That's it. Nothing else. Right. Yeah.
So, Jay, anyway, over to you. I think these were some of the questions I also wanted to hear from, all the three successful entrepreneurs. If you have any questions or anything.
Yeah. Firstly, I would like to apologize PLAG, Chirag sir, Akshay sir, and Anand sir for some of the initial glitches that happened. Because session was basically for 5 institutions, and this is under the mentor-mentee program of IIC, which is again handled by IICTE, Government of India. And we have been allotted a mentor for other 5 institutions like Ganpat University, UCA, and 3 more engineering colleges within Gujarat and one of Maharashtra. So participants from these colleges came for a session. This is the first interaction that we had with those students. So one challenge that I personally am feeling is, like I was already discussing with PLA madam 2 days back also, that we had a lot of initial funding coming in for our innovations at the idea stage. Last year we had 128 teams receive funding through state government policies. What happens is the mindset. I see that because they are students, many times when they come across the examination or submission time, they get derailed. Then getting them back to momentum is again a critical task for all of us. So that is one challenge that we are facing. Second is they are not trying to, see the macro picture of their innovation. They just look at it as a project or look at it as the initial fund, and they're very happy. Which are very happy and content with this innovation. So, kaise in innovations ko aage leke jaye? That was my concern to PLAG, and we were interacting. So, if any one of you could just help me out with this challenge, I will be very happy to execute those things at our institution.
Chirag, you think you would like to probably mentor a couple of their students who may have some good ideas?
Sure.
So just a take on that, Jay, is that most of people take it as a project because they don't have an industry guy talking about the potential of it. That is where most of the times they don't see the larger picture. Second is a lot of youngsters have this mindset that once they start a startup, it will be valued and they'll be unicorn, they'll be super successful instantly. And when they don't see that happening in that next 2, 3, 4 months, then they just go down. I think so the mentoring process has to be, with a lot of industry partners or associations to get those things really solved out.
Right. I think one point, as what you mentioned, Akshay, that mentoring from industry mentors or real entrepreneurs who are already into their own domain of entrepreneurship and business, they would be more practical in terms of mentoring the startups and innovations. One suggestion that came from Sumit Kabraji as well, who is director of RR Global, he said that, Jay, why don't you adopt a policy at your center wherein you can onboard the industry mentors or real entrepreneurs, and you can definitely have the mentoring on equity basis too. So initially, if you say that, okay, there is a startup or innovation going on, and if any mentor is ready to handhold a particular team, you can definitely share some sort of equity with them. So he or she will be more interested into the growth of the particular startup. So how do you see this? I mean, if you feel that this could work for an incubation center, let's say 5% equity, 7% equity to a particular mentor, directly from a startup, and then that handholding will actually, accelerate. Do you think that will be working for us?
That really makes a lot of sense. Honestly, that is how the real thing goes. I was with a few people who also have this sort of ecosystem. They actually offer an early stage equity mentors also, so they have a long-term interest in that in that particular project.
So
Right.
it's not about maybe just let's say 5% equity to a mentor, which is more like a sweat equity, would actually make sure that mentor also has an active role and just not okay, karna hai to karo, nahi to mat karo.
Exactly. Okay, so I think PLG, I would be more in touch with you for developing this model and then taking it to a standard process and incubation center.
Yeah, sure. I think with the help of many of our entrepreneur members at TIE, we could think of coming up with a model that can, of course, on one hand help some of your promising startups, and they kind of become a part of a little bit like an accelerator program, right? So that they are able to move faster. Definitely. I mean, if you think one of these days we could probably connect over Zoom, and some of us, we can do that.
In fact, I was very much thinking about this because I don't want innovations to die at an early stage. I could see the potential in them. I could see the idea is really good. But somehow, because of that, practical approach towards innovation and business, they are dying in between. So I don't want that to happen. Equity sharing of 5-7% is not, I don't think there's a big deal out of it. We can definitely go ahead with that. So
yes.
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm saying there can be this other model also where, we actually have the problem statements coming from the industry and let students come up with, good solutions, new ways or new process or whatever. But then it is directly to the industry, and industry will definitely have an interest because it's a problem they are facing.
True.
So that can
also be done. Yeah, that can also be done. Industry oriented problems solving by students. Yeah, Tata has came up with the model Tata Innova. They have created a website also, and they are actually providing prize money to the students who are actually submitting solutions for the problem, 5 lakhs, depending on the complexity of the problem that they have posed. But that again is an open innovation model kind of thing. But at my stage, what I have seen, majority of students that the ideas are really good. But again, as I said, a majority, 40% of them are derailed as in terms of motivation and all. So if they can get some handhold from practical person who is already into the market, early market access will really help them to grow. That's what I personally think.
We can create a small cohort of some of your founders, and I'm sure we can take it forward as TIE. We do have a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure some of them would be happy
we can develop a standards case. Let us see. We can try out something for a few startups. If it works, then we can scale it up for others as well, the model.
Absolutely. We can definitely look forward to that.
Yeah. Thank you, PLG, so much for your time. I really thank Chirag Bhai, Akshay Bhai, and Anandji for their valuable contribution. I know Anandji is traveling, but still he's joining and providing his valuable input. I really thank all of you for joining us on this occasion.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, PLG.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks everyone for joining. Chirag, Akshay, Anand, thanks a lot for sharing all this experience today with everyone. I'm sure it must have been helpful to everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.